Know me, I'm Miss Kelsey. I actually teach next door, and I'm going to discuss our virtual learning space that many of you were actually participants in. And I'm going to explain what a virtual learning space is, and I'll list the goals in a second. But I want to warm up your brains because I don't know about you, but mine is pretty much fried after my camp. So I am like done thinking for the day. But what you're going to do is, in a second, you're going to write on a sticky note, and I put some sticky notes out, nice and big ones, so they give you plenty of space. And if you have a pen, Miss Nations has some. I'm sorry, Becky. And you have one goal. Your goal is on your sticky note. It's going to be, and don't start until I tell you to list every team you've ever been on. For some of you, like you could go on and on. I know for me, I was on all sorts of different teams. It could be the debate team. It could be a band or ensemble. It could be a sports team. You choose. It doesn't matter what type of team, but you need to list as many as you can, and you're only going to have 1 minute to do it. So you're going to list as many teams as you can think of, write them down, and then we're going to compare, and the one with the most actually gets a prize. So we got 1 minute.
No pressure.
Yes, go for it. What's your question?
Names?
I mean, if I was on the debate team, I would just write debate team. Yeah. Ready? Go. I'm so excited to see how many you get. I think I got to 15. That's what Hey, no cheating. Holly. And you don't have to have their fancy name. You can be pretty generic. I should have known you were on the debate team, Jacob. That's why I like you. Anything you've ever been on? Yeah. Yeah, from elementary up. Right? Please. Put, whatever. You have about 10 seconds.
Oh my gosh. How'd you write 15 in 2 seconds?
Well, I knew what I was doing beforehand. So. And your time is up. You can finish the one that you're writing. I appreciate your honesty. All right, count them up, and then I'm going to. All right, if you had 5 or more, stand up. I knew you'd all have 5. All right, if you had 7 or more, standing. All right, if you had 10 or more, stay standing. 10? Is that how many you had? How many did you have? 9. Okay, so did anyone have more than 9? Or they also had 9? Okay, so jazz hands for them. You guys can go and grab a prize from my little blue basket over here. And they're actually good prizes. Like, I wanted, I'm keeping whatever's left over. So they have to be decent. So, oh my God, Becky. So I promise it's not rigged. Okay, so this is to get you thinking about teams and groups of people. So the takeaway of this warm-up was really to think about people working together to achieve a goal. Okay, so when you're doing that in those different teams you've ever been on, you have preferences now and you have different experiences to share. And all of those accumulate into you as an individual. So when you're on a team, some of you are really good listeners, while others like sharing out loud what they're thinking. And both of those have benefits and they both have challenges. So through today's demonstration, I'm going to explain how those can contribute in a bigger setting in our school. So our first goal is going to be to learn what a virtual learning space is. And for those of you who participated, you kind of have an idea, but I never fully explained it to you. Then the purpose of them, so how it can be used, and then the steps in actually creating one. So if you wanted to take these ideas and create your own learning space for your own purpose, and then reflection, where I get to explain what went well, what didn't go well, what improvements we're going to be searching for the rest of the school year. So now I have another activity for you, and this one really pretty simple. You are going to have 3 minutes to sort these cards on your table. So there's one stack over there, one stack over here, and y'all are teachers, so I assume this will go tragically wrong. And you will read the names on these cards, and you will decide how to group them. So it's a blind card sort. So I don't care how you sort them, and you can argue all day if you want to. You could have 5 groups, you could have 1 group. It doesn't matter to me. But the goal is for you to create groups that make sense to you. Okay? So I'm going to have 3 minutes on my watch. If we need more time, I'll give you more time. But that's about how long it took me, and I knew what I was doing ahead of time. So ready? Go. And you guys can talk and share. That's allowed.
Totally different. That's kindergarten.
Okay, once you're finished, you guys can tap your head and rub your tummy. Once you're done, try it.
We do it all the time on Go Noodle. My fifth graders can do it.
Then my 4th graders will know how to do it.
It's Mr. Catman.
Well, I need to look them. Are you guys done?
Well, I just spoke collaboration, so yeah, no, I'm good. Because that does say teams. Anything else say collaboration? These 2 are PLCs. Maybe these need to be maybe that should have a virtual collaboration team on it. I don't know, virtual. Maybe virtual should go together. Online should go together.
You've got 2 minutes. Does anyone need more time? Do you guys need more time? Do you guys need more time?
Well, we could change up the way we split it.
So let's look at what we have. Okay, so everyone, I always tell my kids, and I apologize, but by my nose, and focus is you, and I want you to go to the other table. So I just want you to see how they grouped it, and don't move anything around, just see how they did it.
They look like a lot of meat. That was the way we were talking about flipping the 2. Don't fit in. Yeah, there's 2 PLCs.
And then you can go back to your seat whenever you're done looking.
I'm just saying the same thing you said. That was the other way we would have done it.
Yeah.
So when I practiced this card sort, there were 2 different ways that I did it, and it was almost identical to what you guys did. And it's really interesting because I initially wanted to do it based off of the words that were included in the terminology. But realistically, this line card sort was to get you to reflect on all of the different names you could use for teachers working together to work on a goal. Okay? So technically, 1 group would have worked fine, and I guarantee 2 kids, I could name them, are in my class that would have done that. They'd have been like, I'm done. And they would have just put them in 1 group, which, I mean, none of the groups would have been wrong. But like you guys saw, there's many different ways that you could have done it. So the big takeaway for this was that, let me slide over to the next slide, was that no matter how you organize them, each group includes people working together with a common goal in mind. So they are working towards a goal. It might be on campus. They're working a goal. It might be in your grade level. They're working in a goal. It might be your content. But they're people with a common goal. So the definition for virtual learning space is that it is a place to help educators use technology to extend, enrich, and ultimately improve on the existing PLC process. I took this from the Fur and Reasons book, and it was this copy right here. I did not find this until I had been implementing our project for like 2 months almost. So I was really disappointed when I did find this and a little excited because this told me what I should have been doing. And then I reflected back on what I didn't do. And so those mistakes that I had made along the way, I was like, oh, okay, if I would have read this, I would have known better. And I could have improved the experience for many of you who are in this group already. So as we move forward, with talking about a virtual learning space, just keep in mind that any group of people is going to have many benefits and challenges. So I have you doing a lot of activities in the beginning to kind of just get you involved so you can kind of get an idea what this is. So we do have another one before I do a little more talking. and there's little strips on your table, and you can just grab one strip. Grab one strip, and if you have leftovers, you can distribute the rest. And just read it to yourself in your head. Read it to yourself. There's a lot more. All right. Hey, baby. And you're going to decide if your strip is a benefit or a challenge to doing something together as a group, specifically virtually. Okay? So I have a T-chart over here. And on my T-chart, you're just going to lay your strip on the side that you think it belongs. Okay, I know which side they belong on, and I even changed the font, so if you want to be real sneaky, you can check yourself. But just go and set it down. Then I'm going to look at my cheat sheet and kind of see how you did it. Okay. So when you think you know where it goes, walk on over, set it down, and go back. And you're welcome to ask people if you're not sure.
Sorry, Holly. Yeah.
Okay, give your partner or someone at your table a high five. You guys mastered it. Well done. I probably should not have told you about the font, but that's okay. So for the benefits and challenges, I'm actually going to list the most important ones that are from Prayer and Reason's book. I stuck with this as my main source for the presentation to keep things simple and absorbable. I have a 22-page report that you can read if you want to, but none of us have time for that. So if you need more resources, though, I do have them. So some of the challenges to doing a virtual learning space is that it's difficult to monitor. So when I created this learning space, I was in charge of creating it, getting people to join it, and then trying to explain what exactly I was doing, which later on I reflect on how that was kind of an issue for me. And being that person takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of, well, you have to have knowledge and what you're talking about, what you're sharing about, and then of course in the platform that you're using. So what app or what program you're using. So monitoring can be a really big challenge, especially if you have someone who's not experienced in a few of those things. You might be using the wrong platform. When I sent out the survey for a lot of the participants in this course, a few of them said, I wasn't getting notifications. It was difficult to know when anything was submitted. And I agreed, but as the teacher and the admin of the course, I got the notifications and I was seeing all of those things. And even though I had created my own ghost account and I was checking things, it had never correlated, oh yeah, they don't see this. And so I felt like maybe there's a better platform out there. And after reading that book, I realized I shouldn't have even picked it. I should have asked what platform to use with the people that I invited. And I did a lot of that, me making decisions and then forcing it upon other people, which Differ and Reason explained that that's a huge barrier that can lead to a lot of issues down the road. So, lesson learned. Minimal collegial interaction. This is just a fancy way of saying you might have lurkers. My technology teacher that I'm taking this year, the professor at UHCL, she calls this people that participate but aren't actively doing things, lurkers. They're there, they're watching, but they're just lurking around. They're not really contributing in a collegial way. They're absorbing though, which was half of what I asked people to do. So they weren't doing anything wrong. They were just not visible. And that was really a struggle for me because I'm visible everywhere on a virtual learning space. But some people chose another route and nothing was wrong with that. So me accepting that that's how some people would participate was a barrier for me personally. Possible power struggles. I handpicked people for this reason, so this wouldn't be an issue. Depending later on, if you allowed anybody to join them, that could be a real issue. There was a case study that they listed in their publication where this lady set up this great learning platform, and she had anyone from the district join, and they had like a cat fight going on, and she was like, "Oh my God, like I have no control over this," because they were experiencing power struggle, and that is extremely difficult to manage if anyone can participate. It's like a Facebook discussion on a topic that should never be discussed in public online anyways. Benefits. Some of the benefits include accessibility. This is probably the most important one, being able to access it anywhere. So I chose Seesaw specifically because it included an app. You could go online, you could do it on your tablet, and you had all of these resources that teachers use in their classrooms available to you at any time. And that's why it's super important to me, but some people might not feel like that's that important. Like, okay, just because it takes me 10 seconds to log on and look real quick doesn't mean anything. Some people would like to take the time to read something or sit face to face with people. So I don't know if that's a millennial thing that I liked the accessibility, but I felt like that was really important to me. Better outcomes. There was one case study that I referenced in my research paper where they created a platform where teachers in a college were kind of not really dumping, but working together to create resources for their students to use. And they said participation increased by like 40%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking in a college, that is a lot. So when you're talking about an online class where you never see your professor and students are participating in, like, for instance, like bulletin boards and posting things, a better income is important, and a 40% increase is pretty significant. The innovation and creativity. This is kind of funny that this is on here because that's almost exactly what we were doing. We were sharing our innovations and our creativity that we are using in our classrooms, specifically with technology. So I felt like, yay, that's on his list. So I was able to include that. And then the last one is I feel like the most significant one. You have experts in different fields, in different curriculum, in different grade levels, and they're all coming together. Now, I set it up that way so that it was like a vertical alignment. So you had someone from kinder, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. But it doesn't have to go that way. It could be something as small as all of fourth grade could be in a learning space. And then you have an expert with students who are ESL. You have an expert who works with kids who have dyslexia. You would have different experts from different parts of your campus working together. So I felt like that was most important for me, especially as far as technology is concerned, because me coming in fresh out of college, I knew a lot of the resources that I could use while other people may not know. So what in the world is the purpose behind a virtual learning space? This is my favorite slide. Okay, so if you did not know, this is the Avengers, and I really like Marvel. And I go and see all the movies, but this one specifically lended itself to my presentation. So you're going to need another sticky note. This time you are going to be listing, and don't start yet, you're going to be listing the qualities or skills that each of these characters have. Now, have all of you seen the Avengers? Raise your hand if you have not. Okay, if you have not seen the Avengers, you can partner up if you need to. I'm more than happy if you like. That's okay. You need to partner up or raise your hand. I can assist you. So I'm gonna list the names though, just so you're kind of aware. Holly, don't start. Second time. I need to take away JoJo point. Okay. So Black Widow, she is one of the characters. Iron Man, the Hulk, also known as Dr. Banner, and you can list qualities for either or. They are different. Captain America, Thor, and then Arrow. So I'm actually going to give you, I think I listed, let's see. Yeah, I did 3 minutes. Yes.
Individual qualities or qualities of a team?
Individual. So I've already written some out. I have to give if you need some, but I want you to actually list them for Black Widow, list them for Iron Man. If you know a lot for Iron Man, stick with Iron Man, because in the end, I'm going to do a tally of who had the most qualities, period. So you can still win, even if you only know a little bit like about Captain America from watching that movie. So that's why I like the Avengers, because it kind of covers a couple movies. Okay. So, oh yeah, I know, like the 8-movie series. Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna give you 3 minutes. If you need more time, I'll give it. But 3, 2, 1, go. Sure. I did positive, but you can do negative. I won't blame you for thinking differently. So you have about a minute and a half left.
You didn't.
It takes forever. I have to pull my.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's really. You have about a minute left. Feel free to grab another sticky note if you need. Oh, you guys are writing a lot. Gatsby, do you need a privacy folder? You always pick on me when we do PLC, so I can pick on you. All right, you got about 10 seconds. Oh, I won't judge your words. All right, go ahead and stop. You finish when you're doing. Okay. Oh. If you're smart enough so that you just come up with something that you just assumed were accurate, you're probably okay. All right, so if you have, let's see, how many did I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. If you have 17 or more, stand up.
I would expect Jacob to be standing.
Yep, stand up if you have 17 or more. There it is. I need to check, friends. All right. Becky, how many do you have? 22. Jacob?
4.
Oh, sorry, Emily. All right, so Jacob, you can go grab another prize. Congratulations. I stood on the hall. Girl, I did not really have competitive. No, I knew you were. I didn't know everyone else was.
My older
Oh, he would have known. Yeah.
Well, any of my older,
Yeah.
but my oldest is a Marvel, like Lord of the Rings, Marvel, all of that. He knows the backstory of it all.
Those are
What do you
good.
think about playing?
I can
So
see
the
that.
Lord of the Rings is another one. He'll tell you all his history.
I wrote like a
So he knows the map.
Yeah.
He knows backstory.
I can actually.
I'm gonna have to go home and get this list.
Ah, go for
I
it.
don't know what she does.
Good
I
check.
just assume she's
Really good. I put
flexible.
Flexible.
That's pretty good. I put agility for Black Widow.
That was also my
Truly, that could be.
Okay, I need to hear your best one. Some of you were pretty creative. You can be silly or creative, whatever you want. So we'll just go around the room. Yeah.
I'm not very good at this. I just say Iron Man text out of
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Probably Hulk Street. That's not really creative. I almost wrote that.
That's pretty good.
That was similar, confident, Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have really good
So-
character words.
That's what's funny is I didn't do any.
Well, then mine was, Iron Man was Playboy.
Yeah, I'd give you that one. Oh, I think yeah, a womanizer. I think that counts. Oh no, I had accurate. Yeah, Becky.
Ooh.
Yeah, she does. I don't know. Oh, I had Captain America was a good PR. Everybody liked him, so that was easy. So give yourself a pat on the back. Very nice. You guys did really good. I need to do this with my kids. I bet they'd look at me. Yeah. Well, you don't. Yeah, you think more
It kind of
skills.
wasn't mine.
I kind of tricked you, yeah, by doing that. So either way, let me go back to the slide. Each of these characters contribute something to the Avengers team, and that's why there's more than just one on a team. So depending on what characteristics, which a lot of you listed, both challenges and benefits to their skills, they're coming together with a common goal in mind, usually to save the world. So it's just more of an elaborate version of what we would do in our virtual learning. So the main purpose of a virtual learning space is to share our ideas, which they do in the Avengers, to overcome barriers, which they do eventually in the Avengers. It takes them a while and a couple fights to get over each other, and eventually to support their learning. So that could be Dr. Banner learning how to control himself so he doesn't turn into the Hulk, or it could be Iron Man dealing with his arrogance and learning to move on and accept humility in some level. So in PLC, for us as teachers, we're sharing our ideas and learning how to ignite each other's thoughts, and we're overcoming barriers, maybe being uncomfortable with certain situations or uncomfortable with curriculum that we don't know. And then, of course, supporting each other learning, being open-minded when you're working with someone who is more experienced than you, or working with someone who is less experienced, and learning how to deal with them, aka Becky and me, learning how to deal with me. So the next page is just a quote from Different Reason. I was reading, and this one just really stuck out because of this last part. Virtual teaming allows teachers to see the internet as an interactive learning space where thoughts can be presented, sensibilities challenged, information gathered, and revolutions ignited. That's why I teach. I teach because I want to ignite the people around me. That's why I'm enthusiastic about everything I do, because I want them to feel that same energy, because you feed off of the people around you. And it's not just the teachers, it's the kids. So if you ignite another teacher, they ignite their kids, and now you've touched the lives of hundreds. So that stuck with me, and I feel like a lot of teachers here at Ferguson, that sticks them. They are really here to make a difference, and I feel like virtual learning spaces allow us to kind of share all of our enthusiasm and ignite that passion among each other. Now is the time to ask questions. Does anyone have a question so far? Because this is a lot to kind of take in. No? Did you have something you needed to talk to your group about? This is kind of the time. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. All right. So I'm going to move on to the steps. I have placed a handout. This is the only handout that I am passing out because I hate handouts. I always throw them away, or I scan them after I took notes and then I throw them away. So this sucker is the only thing you would really need if you wanted to someday have your own virtual learning space and and head it up or ignite someone else's idea and have them head this up. So I'm going to give you just like 30 seconds to read it because you can read it no matter what I say to do. And then I'm going to start going over 1 through 10 pretty quickly. All right, I saw a couple heads pop up. So I'm going to start with number 1. You're welcome to follow along with me or to zoom in on the ones you feel like resonate with you. I'm starting with number 1. Number 1 is membership. You have to decide, can anybody join or is it going to be invite only? For the course that we had on Seesaw, I invited specific people because I needed it to be in a controlled environment for my project to present. If you created one though, and you feel like anyone should be able to join, you could do that. You could have it open to anyone. You don't have to have any passwords. You don't have to invite anybody to like log in. You can make it very open-based. Number 2 is the connection. And this is really zooming in on how to communicate. If you're going to just email people, then that's okay. Maybe you're going to use Remind, the app Remind, to send off stuff and you're just in like a group together. You have options, and you have to make that decision though in the very beginning, because I was running into the problem of if I sent a message on Seesaw, not everyone would get it because they wouldn't necessarily check on Seesaw because they wouldn't get a notification. So then I was sending an email, and it was really frustrating because then I had to like go and find everyone's name or go and find an old email and then reply all. So I didn't do a good job, and like I recognized that, and it was super annoying because I felt that weakness the whole time. 3 is scope. This is what level are you implementing it? For this project, I did it on a vertical alignment campus. So I picked a small group of people on our campus to be a part of this. And eventually I wanted it to be campus-wide for anyone to join if they wanted to on our campus. So it's still restricted, but not like super restricted like it is right now. Then the next one is the format. This is what program you're using. How are your participants interacting? So this is not necessarily like sending messages. This is like you actually viewing products and contributing and submitting and then commenting on their products. So it's a little different than the communicating one because you are finding a platform that works for you to submit stuff. Then 5, orientation. This is who is involved. Okay, do you have admin only? Do you have an admin plus every grade level, vertical alignment? Do you have 4th grade? Do you have just the grade level? Do you have block only? Are you including block in? So this one is much similar to the membership one. Number 6, that's duration. How long is it going to last? You could do a virtual learning space just for the summer. Like if you wanted to just keep upbeat and focused and driven so you don't have that like hangover when you come back from school and you're exhausted the first week and you can't move after school, you might want to do a summer one. Or you could do a 9 weeks one if maybe you have a really difficult chunk of curriculum that you want to dive into with your grade level. It's optional, you decide. So that's something you need to consider though. I consider doing this for the whole year, seeing how it goes, and then to continue it for next year if it goes well or if we find a platform we like. Number 7 is origin. Basically, this is if you were a predetermined group. So I had picked all of you, and I went through and determined how it was going to be set up. But some groups just happen, and you might just have a group of people who are frustrated with something and they want to find a solution for it. Well, that's going to be more naturally creative. So origin is really more like, did you guys create a group to solve a problem, or did the group just kind of happen? Then 8 is purpose. What's the goal of the team? And this is so important. And I like bombed this, like not like 80% bombed, but like 50% yes bombed. And so the purpose and goal of the group needs to be set by everyone involved. Yes, I know Dean would like that. And everyone involved needs to set that goal though. If you're the one setting it, which I set it, I was a bit of a dictator as far as the group was concerned, then the people involved lose the meaning behind it. And then you lose your momentum, and then there's no hold. So you're not selling it if you are not including them in that process. So it's kind of when you introduce something new in the classroom, if you really don't get the kids behind you, it fails, and it's miserable going through it, and then no one's happy. Which I don't think any of you are like super unhappy, but I may have bothered some of you a little too much. Number 9. Number 9 is size. And that kind of goes back to membership. How small is it going to be? How big is it going to be? Is it going to be really large scale? Or I listened to Jennifer Gonzalez. She has a podcast, and it's about teachers. And one of her podcasts I listened to was about masterminds. And it's really, really interesting. It's like a group of people who just want to grow professionally. And they choose what they talk about. And each person has something different. And then they just zoom in on one person. Well, I think it's 2 people every time they chat. It's all virtual, and it's for 1 hour. Every week, 1 hour. And 2 people had the stage, and all those experts on the group give them advice and help them solve their problem. It's 8 people. And that's a really intimate group. And so the quality of the participation is like amazing because they're in it for a reason. And you pay to be in the group. So everyone in there wants to be there. And it's really cool because it's international. So you have people from London and Australia and the US and South America. And everyone's working together for the common goal. So I really liked learning about masterminds. And then the last one is this management. Who's going to be in charge? Is the group themselves going to be in charge? Anarchy, you're just letting it go? Or are you going to have a dictatorship where one person is deciding who's doing what? Or are you going to rotate facilitation? Like 1 week, maybe I do it. Next week, Gatsby does it. You decide that from the very get-go. So I definitely put the cart before the horse. And I wanted to get it started and rolling when I should take my time like nurturing and developing the actual process. So I'm going to ask you to do something pretty quickly. You just look at your handout, and I want you to circle your favorite part in each square. So like for 1, you decide as far as membership is concerned, which one would you prefer? Like anyone being able to join in a group, or you decide who's in your group. And you go through this whole handout. I think you guys will only need like maybe 2 minutes. I'll just end it when everyone's finished. And I just kind of been interested to see what you guys do. So I would really like you guys to kind of chat it up for a little bit and kind of share how you felt about some of them, because especially for like face-to-face, like I couldn't decide when I did it. Like, yes, I'm really comfortable with the whole virtual idea, but I still find a lot of value in face-to-face conversations. And I feel like a lot of that disappears when you do this. So, you know, some of you may have selected face-to-face versus virtual, or maybe you picked hybrid because you weren't sure. So I want you to take a minute or so, kind of talk in your group and share maybe the one where you really sat and like thought about it and kind of just voice why you picked the one that you did. Okay?
you want to do like all, you know.
Yeah, I did say that.
Which I'm not doing. Sorry, I had like a specific.
Yeah.
I took more than
Me too. I did too, because, you know, I think Ignite and Inform is good, but it has, to me, a shorter purpose. You know, that would be the beginning of it, you know, you ignite somebody to learn something, then you teach them.
Yeah.
So I did the same. Anybody choose face-to-face? I chose face-to-face.
I ended up circling hybrid. I originally did face to face. I wanted to
that might be
face to face. In the first place, and then I went there to be in the building to share things.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Because it's really schedules. Yeah.
Especially if you do a bigger group from people further away. You really
So you're saying solos.
I would think so. It's like 2 or 4
I think district.
I said team or small. I'm taking a little bit smaller because if it gets too big, then you lose the intimacy and the ability to share. There's too many people maybe speaking or whatnot, and you might get overwhelmed and you kind of lose stuff in that. It's such a big thing. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant. You know, it's like I can't get anything. I can't.
Would it be like district grade level? Kindergarten? Okay, so fifth grade level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that's,
For
see, I think almost you have to choose your purpose before you can circle everything else sometimes. Because I think for different purposes, you could have different things. That's what.
Depends on what you want to accomplish.
The purpose actually, I think, trying to put everything on there.
You should be a kindergarten.
He's up for a challenge. I think he'd be great kindergarten. Yeah, they are amazing. Well, I'm glad you guys mentioned that though, because the purpose, like establishing that goal really was like I said, that's a spot where I really bond. And so as far as like making that clear and setting those expectations in the beginning, that should have been done like a group. Huh? I felt like I did because I had like 3 people come up and ask me like, what is this for? And I'm like, I did a video. I thought I did enough. But you have to take into account like not everyone's gonna watch the video. And like if you're not face to face, for some people who want face to face, well then that it's lost.
Yeah.
So thank you. Are you guys almost finished?
It depends.
Yeah, it depends on the purpose. Oh, thanks. I can always handle a tweet. So I don't know if this group felt the same way, but we were saying that the purpose drives all those other choices. So they were like, well, if this was my goal, I would pick this, this, and this. But if this was my goal, I would change some of these. And that was really a really strong point to make because that is what drives the whole virtual learning process and setting that up. Because if you're doing a grade level, that's going to change everything else. And if you're doing like a curriculum study for the whole campus, though, for like language arts or something, that would change your setup. So I appreciate it. All right, now I'm going to have 2 of my colleagues. They're going to come up here and they're just going to share for like 2 minutes just a couple of generic things. And then since there's a lot of participants who are here, you're welcome to yell out a few things if they didn't cover something that you wish would have been vocalized. So, Becky and Jacob, you're welcome to.
I was just talking to him about it. So Emily sent out a Padlet one today. I'm really kind of big personally on just because of time, which I'm sure all of y'all have all the time in the world, have no idea what I'm talking about. But if it's something quick that I can get to, like earlier whenever she said if I can get to within 10 seconds, that's kind of like how I roll. So I'm not a huge fan of Seesaw. So when she first sent it out, I was kind of like, oh my, I feel like I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I even hate scrolling through Facebook. But I did go through it. I did enjoy learning a lot of the stuff. By the time I got on to put all the stuff that I was doing and to add to the competition, Emily had already put it because we worked so close together with everything that I was like, oh,
I had a couple off. I was like, I know Becky will want to do this.
I know,
I
but
like
it was
you.
really kind of hard because we use the same stuff and we bounced, and I learned from her and we bounced off of each other with that. But I did like losing. There was something that Jacob had posted, and I was like, oh my gosh, I totally love this. Like I didn't even think about this. That's the part that I like, is because we can't always get to each other's rooms to be able to see what's using, but not only that, but like the how, and I think I even put that in my survey, like how they use it. This may be what they use, but that how piece to it. So maybe whenever that's added to the Padlet or the Seesaw, whatever you choose, or there's so many others out there.
Oh, yeah.
Not just saying this is what I use, but this is what I use, this is what it looks like in my classroom, the how piece to it as well. Because I'm a visual learner, and I got to be able to see it and how it's implemented, and that truly helps me. I looked at the Padlet today, and I actually felt that was a lot less stressful for me because the icons, or the whatever they're called, are smaller. The boxes are smaller.
Boxes are smaller.
And
you can see all of them.
But yeah, you can see it's like tiles. That's what I was looking for. It's smaller tiles that you can scroll right to left, whatever, and see them still. But again, just the how piece. But I really enjoyed it, being able to get on and to look, and if there was like a lesson I really wanted some extra engagement for the kids, but I'd already used A, B, and C, then I could get on a Seesaw and kind of look at something else that maybe I'd forgotten about, or maybe I used last year and I just totally forgot about this year. Kahoot being specifically one that I'm thinking of, used it last year and then totally forgot about it because I got hooked on quizzes. And then I was like, oh yeah, Kahoot, like that's something else I can keep them engaged and keep them going. So it was good.
Thank you. All right, Jacob.
So I'll do positives first. So, because it always feels too negative, but I love utilizing technologies in the classroom in general. I really like the ability to, first and foremost, the whole point of this is to share ideas, because we're not always on the same team. So I like the fact that someone else was utilizing something that I could try to adapt into my classroom, and just seeing it in different ways. Also the flexibility of being able to communicate. If you just wanted to, like, I did a screenshot where I would just, which I used, I talked about the snipping tool on there, but I snipped something just to show what I was using. You could do the text, you could do the videos. You could upload a picture. I like that flexibility because sometimes that can be a barrier between you communicating what it is that you do to someone else. Where if you just grab someone like, just record me, I'm going to show you this. I felt that way after I talked about the little menu option that I ended up finding while we were trying to zoom in on fixing some features on the projector. So we found maps, blank maps on a projector as like I think they were using it to organize like specifically what the field is and the coloring, but we found blank maps for social studies that we had no idea. I was just randomly pushing buttons, looking for things, and I was like, hey, there, and I'm going to pitch this now since I already put it in there.
Yeah,
but there's also lined, like if you're writing sentences, it gives you the blank line. It's like just, it's on there. I don't know why. No one's ever said, I just randomly found it. But I went around and shared it with people just because if you find something, if you don't share it and you're not using it, maybe someone else would. But I do like the flexibility and the communication and be able to quickly look at something. That also kind of goes with also some of the things I didn't like is the notifications was big for me because you have, unless you were notified that something has been uploaded and say you've caught up, you're not really reminded. We have so much going on to just go and take a second to look at it. Also how it's grouped, I found kind of difficult. If I just wanted to know about some specific thing, like with a classroom, like if it was a management tool, where I couldn't just click on a management, like something you could easily click on and say, hey, it's over here. I'd have to scroll through the entire thing trying to discover what it was that I was looking for that I remembered. But like even just a second ago, like when Becky's like, there's something on there, but it's like how many times you have to scroll to figure out where it is.
Yeah, it's
so
annoying.
It's great to share knowledge, but if you don't have complete and full access of that knowledge, it's useless. But I guess the big thing I did like was just the fact that when it popped in my brain, if I wanted to share something, I felt that it was more accessible to do that right then. I had students that I had mentioned something to, and they reminded me later on to do it. I had a student, I don't know if this was, I know we were a select group, but helped me put one of my things on as I was sitting there talking to him. And he was, and we were scrolling through it together. We got some extra time. We were scrolling through it just to look at some stuff. So, I mean, I know the whole thing about us is like if we have enough time to do something. So mine was all about saving time, and I felt I don't use Facebook. I have it, but I don't read all this stuff. I don't scroll through all this stuff. So to me, that was a really big negative, is that I have to scroll through everything to see what I even put on there or what someone else did.
Yeah.
But overall, I just loved the fact that it was a source that you can, pick and choose from without being bashed by someone else or.
Or if you were back, you just didn't know about it.
Yeah, you just undid the heart.
You
didn't get the notification
of that.
You weren't told that someone made a comment, so you were oblivious anyway. So. But that was it.
Thank you both of you. I agree as far as the platform itself. We were kind of like dumping stuff, and you may not have known, but there are folders that you can go in and select.
I think that's only,
Yes,
but if you
it's
use
only on a computer.
Yeah, I discovered it when I got on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that it's, like what I think, like.
Right.
Okay,
Did
you
you
have
apply
a
it?
conversation or
Yeah.
whatever, what I see this word as, she
Yeah.
saw it as something else.
That's true.
You go on that folder, you know what I mean? Like,
And then I ended up just putting them in all the folders, and I'm like, well, this isn't helpful. So I was like, it was frustrating too, as like the facilitator trying to make these decisions. And I asked for folder suggestions, and like one of them was like just for questions. Like someone put that on there. Like I need a spot where I can just like toss out a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course it's. And so
Well, sometimes it wasn't like something you wanted to
no,
fix,
yeah.
and you were just like, I just wanted, it's kind of like you're asking a whole bunch of
Yes.
people, hey, how do I fix this, or how do I do this?
Mm-hmm. And I felt like a lot of the comments and input that was given on the surveys was really helpful. So thank you to each of you who did that, because I really did take that into consideration, and I put those as sources in my paper when I was typing it up, because I was like, they were valid, and I got all of you together for a reason, and it was to cultivate ideas. And if I wasn't doing it in a way that fit you, well, then it was pointless. I'm getting ready to. Yeah, no, that's okay.
Like wrapping it up.
No, you're like me. No, I'm almost done. I do have the 2 slides left. So we ended up with 9 members. Over 15 were invited total, but some people either it ended up in clutter, like they straight up told me. Even Holly did. We had to like figure that out. It was like not fitting to her. And then other people, they really didn't have the time. Like, and they straight up told me, they're like, I really want like to be involved in this, but right now it's not a great time. The last 9 weeks of school to ask people to do this is crazy, but it's not like I had a choice as far as like setting this up. This was my last semester of school. So I was thrilled with the submitting, and to have the quality members that we did, I was happy. And then we had over 50 submissions. Yes, most of them were mine, but I was a facilitator. That I felt like that was part of my job. I wanted to get as many things out there as possible. But after listening to a podcast with Jennifer Gonzalez, I felt like in the beginning, especially, I was dumping instead of cultivating. But I felt like towards the end, I did a better job, and I felt like the participants did a really good job of cultivating ideas, which means they were submitting very specific things that were useful and applicable in the classroom. I felt like in the beginning I was giving resources. Well, that's not helpful if you don't know how they were applied in the first place. And then I have a goal to go campus-wide, and I'll fiddle with it the rest of this year, and of course, we'll try and find a platform that works. And just because you're a member now doesn't mean you're stuck with me. You're always, I'm not like, I haven't chained you down. But I want to make this available to the whole campus. I feel like there are a lot more than just us who could benefit from this. And I tried to pull a couple like inexperienced technology people, and then quite a few like very experienced technology people, so that I could cultivate a lot of the ideas and then provide that for people. So very similar to what that group was saying, like closed in the beginning, but then an open invitation, so that it was kind of all the issues and quirks were kind of worked out. So I put the cart before the horse. I didn't even set norms with the group. I had really high expectations, but I didn't really explain them very well. I did video, but that's really not enough. You really need a sit down face to face, almost like a hybrid in the beginning. And then I didn't even use models to explain it, so I didn't even follow good teaching practice. It happened. I was just really excited. And then I should have definitely gotten initial feedback from everyone in the group on how to set it up, what was the initial goal. If I would have just kind of explained it and explained that I was trying to double dip between my technology course and my practicum, they would have understood what I was trying to do a little bit better. And then, of course, I took the surveys and all the recommendations that were given, and I did make changes, and I felt that was super beneficial. Like, I really loved that process, and I tried to make the surveys short so that y'all didn't freak out. And it took me 1 minute and 40 seconds to do it when I did it. I like made sure to adjust accordingly. And then, different reason, I felt like finally gave me a clear guideline to follow, and this is what ended up reassuring me that, okay, what I'm doing is meaningful and has a purpose. I just wasn't necessarily doing it the right way. So I am at the point where some of you are going to get to just log on to Seesaw and go and search through some of those things. And especially if you're on your laptop, you can search through the folders, each of the folders, and just kind of glance around. And then whenever you're finished, you'll be free to go. And then for people who are not members yet, you are going to be invited to join the group so you can sit and look at some of the things that we have cultivated together. And then I have an alternative. I sent that email to all of you this morning. The password is Ferguson. Hopefully you got that second email. Thank you, Holly, for giving me a heads up. And before y'all really log on, I need to really say thank you. Yesterday when I practiced, I don't know, maybe I was really emotional, but I always started crying. I was like, this is really important to me. And I know my advisor, she's like, wow, your enthusiasm kind of just like, whoo, it's overpowering. But it's really done mean a lot to me that y'all joined and that you supported me in my efforts. And I was getting really nervous when I just saw Jacob in the library. I'm like, oh no, that's so disappointing. And then y'all started filtering in. So that's a great feeling. That's a great feeling to know that. No, Jacob, I appreciate him. Thanks for taking the time to be here today, too. It is a pain in the butt to have to stay after school, especially for a while, and then be on video, maybe. And I really look forward to continuing this effort with all of you. So, if you are already part of this team, I do ask that you just go on and maybe look at least one and just kind of absorb that, and then you're free to go. Maybe check out my alternative and email me, let me know what you think. And then for those of you who are new, I'm going to have you log on at app.seesaw.me, and I'm going to actually let you sign up so you can see everything close and personal. This is what it looks like, though. So you can see the Facebook 5. Very Facebook. So I'm going to zoom in on this. Who is a new member? All right. So I will hope the two of you. Did you have your laptop?
I did.
Okay. Well, no, you're good. You're welcome to use mine if you want to. But I'm going to write down this code real quick. All right. So those of you who, after you look, you are good to go.
Emily, you good?
Yeah. You can stop.